Okay, thank you, everyone. So good to see all of you today. I am super excited to be at this meeting. I mean, it takes a village. It's so good to know that this is the final meeting for the year, and I I want to appreciate all of you for believing and for being there all the time since we started this drive. I want you to know that the day may not have panned out the way you expect it to. The year may not have panned out the way you expect it to be. I know people who, in their wildest imagination, they wouldn't be in the diaspora. They didn't have a goal to be in the diaspora as like January, but they're here, right? But everything is working together for your good. And I want you to know that you have all it takes to become all you need to be wherever you are. It starts from the mind. The mind is where everything is. And what you see, it's what will determine what comes in your direction. So I believe that we're going to have a great meeting. I know that you guys have sent in your questions, and I'm ready to take on the questions, and let's see how we can help us produce a better result for next year.
Fantastic. Thank you, PF. Thank you. That's a very nice and warm intro from yourself. Okay, so like I said earlier, we're looking at 2022, or even maybe the previous years, and then what we should do differently for 2023. And we've also got an information to share with you, which at the end of the session, we'll tell you about something that is also planned that you can benefit from. And I definitely know you thank us for the information. We'll do that at the end, towards the NPF, about what is available for people to tap into as part of this discussion this evening. Okay, oh, Jacqueline saying hello. Hello, Jacqueline, how are you? Nice. Okay, so PF, I will start off. We've got a few questions. And like I said, I'll be reading the chat if I've got any questions, or as I'm talking and people feel prompted to, your questions are coming through at that point in time, please feel free to either message me directly or put it in the chat. We'll pick it up and read. We'll try and, but remember, we try to keep our session within 1 hour. So please send them in as early as you can so we finish on time. Okay, so I've got something here where, I think this was something that was being discussed somewhere, and, the people were saying that, what actually can you say is the yardstick for, measuring success? Either we want to use 2022 or maybe in previous years. What would you say is your yardstick to say, oh, it's been a successful year?
Okay, success differ from person to person, so it's not generic, it's specific to your goal. So if I say that I'm going to, and I love to, use a lot of numbers when it's time, when I want to measure success, even though not all success parameters are numbers driven. But if you say accomplishment of stacks, basically success. If I say I'm going to hit two wraps of pounded yam and I have been able to do that, that's success to me. All right. And so you cannot measure my success by your success. And that is why I always frown at this whole idea of people naming their year and somebody naming your year for you and say it's a year of, taking over, for example. How do you take over when you're not formidable? Right. So for someone, it might be a year of taking over based on what you have done and the processes you put in place over the years. But for someone else, it may be a year of even starting from personal discovery. Right. And so someone whose year is a personal discovery may not make so much money like the other person who wants to take over wants to take territory. Right. And that's why you cannot compare your year or your success with other people's successes, because what is success to you may not be success to me. But you need to predefine what success will mean to you. And that's why we say that, you need to first start from the end to say, this is what I want to see by the end of the year. Then when it's the end of the year, you can now check your result versus your projections, right? If there are gaps, then you want to find out, why do these gaps exist, right? I think the challenge has always been that we say a lot of things that we plan to do, but we do not plan to do what we say we're going to do, right? So somebody says, oh, I'm going to do this year, but they have no clear plan in that direction. And when they don't meet their goals, there are no consequences. So they move into the new year and repeat the same process. And that's what has happened over and over and over again. So yes, you can measure success if you have clearly predetermined, the outcomes you want.
Fantastic. That's good. Thank you so much, PF. You said something which I'm going to pick up on. You said there are no consequences if we don't meet those targets. That's why, how do you think, we can put consequences in place? Because I think a lot of times, for me, I'll talk about myself, since, I don't want, let me not talk about myself alone. Okay. I would say for a few people that I've spoken to, most times when people leave school, school is where you have someone watching over you, and you know that the consequence of passing your exam is A, B, C, and all of that. It's almost like once you finish there, it's a free world out there. We don't really, nobody is like giving us consequences. Yes, life itself might give us consequences, but it's not really in our faces. So how can we, put some kind of consequences in such that it would be that guiding principle? At least I know that, oh, if I've not met that particular goal, this is the consequence of all, how can we, create those consequences? Or
okay, so there are two, well, I don't like to say there are two ways, there are multiple ways actually. Yeah, but like they always say that if you don't pay now, you're going to play later, right? And so people can change through inspiration, and people can change through pain. Now, people wait to change through pain, which is the consequence for a certain kind of behavior, right? But you do not wait for pain to remind you to change. You can actually induce it. So for example, when I set goals, or when I lead people to create goal scoring framework, I help them create the consequence for not achieving the goals. So for example, all the people who are here in this meeting today, all right, I'm sure you have one particular goal that you did not meet this year, even though the year is not over. But let's assume that the consequence for not meeting that goal is the fact that 10,000 people that are very, very dear to you are going to die. What would you do differently? Then you begin to see that people actually would have different course of action, because the world does not operate on the framework of two-dimensional. Unfortunately, many people, by the virtue of their training, are two-dimensional, so they think right and wrong. The world does not operate on the basis of right and wrong. So they are fighting a multi-dimensional battle from a two-dimensional frame. And that's why they lose consistently, because they have not considered all the variables that exist that can help them achieve their goal, that they've not paid attention to because their strategy was emotional. So what I always say to people is this, that you need to induce the consequence. Right? So for example, what is the consequence of not, if you live in the UK, for example, the consequence of not paying your house rent, you know what I mean, right? You don't even need to tell you. You can't even picture you becoming homeless, staying on the street. It's winter. You can't imagine your children. So you know the consequence and why you need to pay your house rent. If you max your credit card in the US and you don't pay, you can't pay what you're supposed to pay, you know the consequence. Your credit rating drops immediately, and that affects the opportunities you can take. Right? And so you want to induce the consequence for not scoring the goals on what is the consequence on my personal self? What's the consequence on my family? What's the consequence on my capacity, to influence my world? For example, if you're perpetually broke, you know the consequence on you. It's very simple. When it's time to take advantage of opportunities, will not be able to take, you will talk, but you will not be able to partake. Right? So those consequences, you make it, in a way that is real, and they neurologically process it such that it becomes very scary. And the moment it becomes very scary, what they trigger is an emergency situation to say, it's either I win or win, right? I know, there is no chance of not scoring this goal because I know what the consequence would mean for me. The problem is many of us wait till it's too late before we begin to run helter-skelter, when we could have actually jump-started that process. For example, if I don't eat what I'm supposed to eat, I know what my body begins to feel. If I don't work out, I hate to fall sick. I hate it. I can't stand it. So I know the behavior, the meal plan I need to create. If you open my fridge, you will almost not believe your eyes what you're seeing there, right? Because I know I've been sick before. I know the consequence, right? So people need to induce this consequence and make it very real. Once it becomes very real, and the easiest way I put it is this: let's assume at the beginning of every year, at the end of every year, December 31st, God, and I'm going to ask you guys here, I want you to answer the question in the chat box. Let's assume at the end, December 31st, God lines us up at River Thames, right? I think there is River Thames in the UK, and now says that only those who have accomplished their goal for the year will cross over to 2023. How many of us will cross over? I want you to answer the question. So let's say the consequence for not scoring your goal is that you're not going to cross over to the next year, all right? How many of us will make it? Let's play the game. Let me see what your comments are like. Will you make it? Yes or no, right? And so it's as simple as that. Once you induce it, you would realize that your capacity to score your goals or to meet your targets is heightened, and you'll be operating at a level that is slightly above the norm, because ordinary people want extraordinary results, but no ordinary person can get extraordinary results. You need to be extraordinary to get extraordinary results.
Fantastic. I think in answer to that your question, people were not even we're not able to even type, because we all know, for me, I definitely know I'm guilty. They say, problem deal. So that goes to show that, indeed. Now, I hear you talk a lot about goal scoring. And we also have people talking about, towards this time of the year and the beginning of the new year, you hear a lot of, let's set our goals, goal setting and all that. What do you think is the difference between these two? And why don't you use that term a lot, of goal setting? You do use this different term that I've heard over and over from you, goal scoring. I'm like, okay, why does PF have to do something? Why must it all be different? Why can't you just call it goal setting? What's the difference now?
Okay,
yeah.
That you set a goal doesn't mean you're going to score the goal. Life is not a respecter of your setting. Life is a respecter of your scoring. I mean, Brazil played a match today. They set a goal to win the World Cup, but they're out, right? Because the whole match showed that they didn't plan to score the goals, right? And so the team that won was a crazy team, very boring team, but they played to their strength. They knew their strength is in what's it called? Penalty shootout. They know their goalkeeper will take like at least 2 penalties, and they played to that, and they won the match. So you realize that, and this whole thing started many years ago. So I was in church. Year in, year out, they would say to us, write your goals, bring it to church, leave it up every 31st of December. So I'd gone to church that same year, December 31st, as I lifted my goals up to pray, having done goal setting like I've always done. And then I had the voice say to me, did you score your goals the previous year? My answer was no. Then we went 2 years before, no. 3 years before, 5 years before, no. So I began to have a conversation with myself to say, why would I want to write this same thing and repeat the same exercise? And we say that repeating the same thing the same way and expecting a different result is insanity. So what I did was I decided to take myself out of the declaration that year in our church to say it's our year of whatever. No, I now say it's my year of finding what works. So I intentionally went to look for people who I knew who exceeded their targets year in, year out. I studied them intentionally, asked them questions, interviewed them. The ones I couldn't have access to, I went on YouTube, studied. What I found was totally different from the goal setting classes I've attended. So I knew that there are patterns in you that did not make you score your goals last year. The same pattern is still there. It's like you have gone to pick somebody from Aba to come and play in a World Cup or Champions League, to come and play for Manchester United. But you have designed a jersey called Lionel Messi around his back, and you put that jersey of Manchester on him, and you expect him to play like Messi. It doesn't have capacity. So many people are very motivational in their approach. Just set the goal. At the end of the day, what goals they've set, they can't even accomplish it because everything is scattered. There is no congruence, as it were, right? And so consistently, people self-sabotage. Their beliefs will sabotage them. So if you do not audit their beliefs, if you do not audit their relationships, their network, if you do not audit why they have not been meeting their target, and if you do not now, if there are things to uninstall and install and help them heal from trauma, then help them create strategy and a framework it's very tough to do. They are not going to score the goal. Then if what you do is put them in a mode where they set goals every year, every new year, 1 year goal, they are not going to go anywhere, because they will set goals that will conflict with what they have the capacity to do within 12 months calendar. So at the end of the day, they go rush into the year. Oh, I will do this, I'll do this, I'll do this. They will be tired by the end of January. By the end of January, the old pattern would have kicked in. And because the pattern is also that they have no expectation, at the end of the day, they will still thank God to say, God, we thank you. We are not where we used to be, but we thank you. We are not where we want to be, but we are not where we used to be. That's the mantra that they used to console themselves. To say, we thank God that we are not where we are not where we ought to be, but we are not also where we used to be. Where do you ought to be? When are you going to be where you ought to be? So that is the difference for me. So I see people do goal setting, then they do vision board, then they do vision board dancing, blah, blah, blah. But where's the plan? Where's the framework? So you have danced. Show me the plan. Show me the. Meanwhile, a simple audit of the relationships in your life will reveal the people you have unconsciously recruited into your life who cannot, get you to where you want to go. And I'll give you an example. 1 year like that, as I was doing my auditing, I discovered that I had a plan. I had a particular amount of money I wanted to make, right? And it was clear that year was supposed to be a year of selling and making money if I were to time my year. But by the time I was auditing my relationship for that year, the activities I designed for myself, I had a plan that year to be in church 3 times a week, to go and volunteer and support my pastor, right? I looked at all the people I was listening to, they were pastors, right? I looked at all the departments that took most of my time, church department. By my conditioning and by my framing and by the structure I've created for myself, the goal I should have set is to become holier or to become a pastor or to make heaven. Because that was what I planned to do. But I wrote something else down as my goal, but I was structured differently to head in another direction. And that's the way the typical human being do goal setting. So they'll say, set goals in the area of your health, set goals in the area of your money, set goals. So everything is just all over the place. There is no congruence. Meanwhile, in goal scoring, you first determine the life you want for your life. Then you now begin to set other goals in alignment with those plans to say, what else, what body would I require to achieve this life? What level of financing do I need to achieve this life? What level of relationships, what certification, what program do I need to? So you only have one life, and that's the life you need to be, you need alignment with. So many of the goal setting framework I have seen does not have that. And that's why I see consistently that a lot of people never achieve their goals and they're not disappointed. So they go for another party and do, what's it called? Vision board party, and everybody dances. By the next year, nobody's coming back to say, can we look at what you've done? Now, what I've done this year, for example, most of the people I'm coaching that I did help do goal scoring, I've checked their numbers this year. It's so crazy. The numbers those guys have done this year that we could, in fact, they are the ones actually, because at the end of the year, I will usually check, they are the ones looking for me to say, praise, so yeah, come and check. So I was like, this one that you guys are looking for, what's happening? I knew that they have exceeded their numbers. That's why they're looking for me, because if they had a fall shot, if they have a shot for, they're not likely going to be looking for me. They'll be praying that I forget to review their session. So that is the difference for me. And I think that so there is the setting of the goals, there is the scoring of the goals, but there is the goal scorer. The most important factor is the goal scorer. When the goal scorer is a mess, right? Forget the goal setting. He won't even be able to go to any place to go and attempt to score any goal because it's in a mess. There could be trauma, tragedy in their lives. They don't have capacity to handle those things. And that's why within the goal scoring framework, there are so many things you put in place, routines and rituals that you need to create the outcome you desire.
Wow, PF, this is like a whole degree course now that you've just, because as you were saying it, there were questions just popping in my head. I'm like, okay, so if you're saying that this, if you're saying that, oh goodness, there are just so many things popping in my head as you're saying those things. I'm just trying to figure it out that, okay, so if you're saying don't set, the finance and those other goals, how do we now check what's like the right way? And I know, that might not be a question you're able to, answer straight away. There'll definitely be many ways, or there'll be different things. But, you just eat something for me where you said, oh, we shouldn't set finance goals. People come in to set finance goals. They said this. If we're not setting finance goals, we're not, well, how should we actually be setting these goals? How should we set them?
So there's what we call life and style. People call it lifestyle. I mean, it's a combination of two words, life and style, right? So you start your life by asking, what is my life, right? When your life is divine, narrow is the way that leads to life. I mean, that scripture is not that leads to heaven. People use it for heaven. So few find it. So the first question is, what is my life? Your life has to be defined. Then what is the style that can deliver my life? So if you say my life is to maybe become a best-selling author and inspire people from 3 continents or blah, 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 blah. If that is what you want, that's the life you want, then you now ask, what type of body? So it means you're going to be doing a lot of traveling. What type of body do I need to achieve this life? That is your health goal, right? And so it now means that you can't afford to eat anything anyhow, because if you grow too big and you can't move yourself around, right, you are going to sabotage the life you want. Now, based on this life I've created, what level of personal development do I need to create to achieve this? Then that becomes your personal development goal. Now, what's the level of financing required to power this life? That becomes your financial goal. What is the level of networking and relationship that I need to get here? That becomes your relationship goal. So you are not emotional at all. You are working for yourself, and you are taking every decision that can lead you in the direction of where you want to go. It's that simple. But as simple as I've explained it, it can be very complicated for many people, because in doing the session, you need to be brutally honest with yourself. And that's one problem that a lot of people find difficult to achieve.
Okay, I've heard you talk about you helping a few people. So do you have like sessions that are planned for things like this? Do you have anyone planned that, people can take advantage of? Because someone like myself would like to know more. You said so much, but if as simple as you're saying it's difficult to do. So how do you, how can you help us?
The first thing is even to, and I need all of you to do this. If you can, yes, we have classes. I have 2 classes. Goal scoring classes. I'm doing 2 this year. One starts in December 26 to 29, 7 p.m. Central Time, which runs from 7 p.m. to 9 p.m. That might be, not be UK time, but if you're in the UK and you want to join that session, that's fine for you. But if you can't join that, you can join the Nigerian and the African and Europe session, which is January 2nd and 3rd. Right, it's just that it's going to run all through the day, 2 sessions a day, so 4 sessions in all, right? If you can meet that would help, even though I usually love for people to do it before they start the year. Now, one thing I would say to you is, even if you can't attend the class, I know you need to attend the class. If all you can do for yourself is this, can you write down on your sheet of paper as you're listening to me, the highest, the goal, the biggest goal that you never achieved this year? Can you write it down on your sheet of paper? Now, why did you not achieve that goal, right? Can you attempt to find answers on your sheet of paper? Now, as you're trying to find answers, can you look at that goal and I'll prefer if you can put your financial goal, for example. Let's say you put a financial goal. Now, I want you to look at that financial goal, for example, and write the 11 closest persons to you this in the last 1 year. 11 closest persons to you in the last 1 year. Right? Write their names. Now, if you look at their names, each of them, look at them. Now, put your goal on the right side and begin to ask, based on those 11 closest people to you, what is their capacity in percentage, what is their ability to have helped you achieve those goals, right? It will be clear to you, something will be clear. You have surrounded yourself with people that you love and you are emotional about, not people that have the capacity to help you go to the destination. So you are like someone who wants to win the World Cup, but you have recruited the players you love, not the players who are fit. So that alone will show you where the problem is. Now, when you have done that, you will literally see that Many of people, 11 closest people to you cannot even go anywhere. Then what are your beliefs about the goals you want to achieve? What are the self-sabotaging beliefs that you think are in place that couldn't help you achieve the goals? Now, you write those beliefs down. Then who are the people who are the ones who either create the beliefs or fuel that beliefs or perpetuate that beliefs in you? Names will begin to show up now. So by the time you look at that framework, it will be clear to you why you have not been achieving your goals. It's that simple, right? And so when you finish that auditing, you'll be able to say to yourself, this is exactly where I am, this is why, and it will be very clear to you. Then the next thing you now want to do is to now check. There are two things we look at, we call them the drags and the weight. Every time the airplane tries to move forward in taxi, there is a force that holds it back, it's called the drag. You now want to check, audit your life to say what constitutes drags in your life. Maybe you have friends, relationships, every time you try to move forward, and some of them are subliminal. So for example, someone wants to leave Nigeria for the UK and wants to move, and he says to a friend that, oh, I want to leave and move to the UK. And the first thing that comes out of the person's mouth is, have you prayed very well about it? Because some people, if they go to where God does not want them to go, they will not make it to. Why is that the first thing that comes out of the person's mind? Now it looks like care. But that is a subliminal way to dampen your aspiration at the end of the day. And many of the people talk like that. They have taken position, but they won't. So they even mean well sometimes, but people don't know that the devil can use them to kill your dream. Right? And before you know it, you just think about it too. And because there is already fear within you, even when you go to pray, you will hear a voice say to you, that's not my will for you. So these are the challenges. So you want to eliminate the drags. Then you examine the weight. Every time the plane tries to lift up, there is the weight. What constitutes the weight in your life? Could it be secret? Could it be a trauma? You want to isolate that. Then you take people through healing. When you take them through healing and you finish that entire aspect, we don't rush it, very intentionally, then you can now go to clarity. Clarity will now be, what is your life's goal? Once that is clear, right? Then you now go to internal capacity. Once it's clear, this is my goal. What is your internal capacity? That's where you will now by yourself redirect your life and begin to now recruit your new 11 for the new year. And they need to be aware. And they have to be people who are capable of supporting you to achieve your goal. Once you do that, then you go to tactical formation, which is, yes, I am clear about my goal. I have recruited my team, but what is the formation or the strategy based on the operating environment I am in? The operating environment of, the interesting thing is, if you live in a developed countries, developing countries, you can pray to God and say, God, give me, I don't know how many of this happened to you. When you first got saved, you say, God, I need toothpaste, I don't have, and God sends somebody. But if you make that your habit, make miracle your habit, you realize after a while, even God will stop answering you. So you need to understand the operating environment you are now in. You're in the UK. What does this environment speak like? How do you get things done? There are people who get things done in the UK. You don't want, so that is where we teach energy and vibration. That if you have high vibration, but you surround yourself with people with low vibration, they are going to dampen your vibration, and only after a time, you begin to vibrate at their level. But if you have low vibration and you surround yourself with people with higher vibration, in no time, you will know the ways. Now, so in your strategy, you are not emotional at all. What can do? So we take you out of the two-dimensional processing to maybe like six-dimensional framework, where you can now see multiple opportunities that surround you, and you can take advantage of that. Sometimes it's collaboration, sometimes it's coalition, sometimes it's partnership. You need to know that. Then you now go to, who are the coaches I need for the new year? After you have done all those things, you now begin to look at the different areas of your life and bring them into alignment with the life you truly want. After you have done all that, you will now look at everything you've done. You will now say, this year is my year of dash. Based on your reality, you will now be able to name your year by yourself. And that changes the dynamics for you.
Please, who else is feeling the heat? Even though it's freezing outside, with everything that PF is saying. I thought I was going to, oh my goodness. I'm just trying to digest it, bit by bit. And okay, you've put the North American one. Yeah, Pamela is putting some fire emojis in there. And yes, it's getting really hot. where I am, because I'm just thinking so, and I'm like, yes, it is hot. Jacqueline, I am feeling the heat. I'm like, okay. Just when we're trying to digest the little ones, PF, you're just, dropping it and dropping more and more. It is so, just the audit that you've asked us to do alone, oh my goodness, that's, changes everything for me. And I don't know about anybody else. The fact that you're saying, don't just jump into another year, but try and do an audit. I've seen one or two questions in there as well, but I think one does not relate to this class, and I'm not sure I'll be taking that question. But someone has also put a question, which I'll take shortly. Just bear with me, and I'm just going to ask this question. So, PF, I think this probably will be the last question. For yourself, in terms of your goals, would you say, if you're going to rate yourself in terms of percentage, or maybe the question should be, do you usually rate yourself in terms of percentages? Like, okay, for 2022, I met 80% of my goals, or is it possible to actually meet 100% of it? Have there been times where you didn't meet it 100%? What's the yardstick for us to say, okay, actually, if I'm like 70% there, then I've done well? Or if I'm, whatever percentage you use percentages, how should we measure ourselves? Because for me, every time I look at them, like, I don't think there's been a particular year where I can say, oh yes, for this particular year or this particular period, I met all my goals, tick, tick, tick. There's always either one thing or the other. How can we measure this and say that this has been successful?
So I always love to do percentages. And I love to be numeric because numbers gives you precision. 1 + 1 has to be 2. 2 + 2 has got to be 4. If 2 + 2 is 5, then we need to find out why it's 5. Now, every time I have failed to deliver on a specific goal, right, would have been because I was distracted. Now, and so distraction, my mentor calls distraction is an attraction that eventually may sidetrack. So for it to distract you, it must attract you. So whenever I fail to measure this meeting I'm going for, what role does it have to play in the accomplishment of this thing? And I get emotional, and that becomes very deadly. It's like you are preparing for a fight. It says, no man that worrieth entangles with civilian affairs. You are preparing for a fight, but you are interested in what is happening on social media. You're interested in this gossip and that gossip. When you forget yourself, and I'll give you an example. So there was a major scandal in Nigeria one year. Somebody raped somebody, and people expected me to speak. Now, if I go by populist opinion, I would take sides, but based on what I do, both parties need me. The perpetrator and the victim both need me. They both need to come to me for help, right? So if I speak against one, I would have taken a position. Now, I'm not a pastor. I'm not a lawyer. I am not an activist. So whenever I lose sight of my real identity that I want to project, and I get into the frenzy of pressure, everybody's writing, so let me write about it, I lose my edge. Now, the false shot at the end of the year is a confirmation of those moments where I became distracted and I lost my edge. Because there is a place I should be at that time. There is what I should be studying at that time. And the other thing will be the level of work, initial work, it takes to achieve your goals. It's not what your body is used to. So your body is going to rebel. It's going to fight you. So for example, it's not normal to wake up 5 a.m. winter to go to the gym. That's what I do, right? It's to fight. I was listening to Tony Robbins yesterday, and he said that they were asking him, why do you dip yourself into cold water every day in the morning? And he said it's his way to tell his brain that you cannot be normal and adjust to what everybody is doing. That when I say go, it's time to go. Now, those are things that the normal person doesn't want. It's a convenient excuse. I can't work out because it's cold, it's winter. It's a convenient excuse, but there are people working out in cold. The answer is yes. So if fortune favors the brave and you have given up 1 month, what is the effect of not working out for 1 month because it's winter? And our winter is not 1 month. It's like 3 months. So by the 3 months, you have already eaten what you shouldn't eat. Instead of improvising, let's even assume you can't go out. Can you at least do Leslie Samson on YouTube and do walk aerobics, 30 minutes every day? right? So your old body is always at war with the new direction you want to go. And that is where discipline comes in. So someone is asking, what is discipline? And I'd always love to stick to the definition of my mentor. My mentor, before he died, always defined discipline the same way. So discipline is a decision that is dictated by a predetermined destiny. Discipline is a decision that is dictated by a predetermined destiny. What that means is your long term should be is what determines your short term. So I want to make $1 million, right? I am here right now. People ask me, oh, Praise, how come you have time for a lot of people? I mean, if you boss me at 2 a.m., I'm likely going to respond to you. If you boss me at 5 a.m., I'm likely going to respond. So they ask me, how do you cope? And I said, when I audited my life, I realized that there was an activity that took 85% of my time. Meanwhile, I didn't want to go in that direction at all. So what I did was to remove 80% away from that activity and retain 5%, right? And deploy the 80% into people engagement, which is where my superpower is, and it changed the dynamics for me. So when you know your predetermined destiny, your end point now begins to determine your short point. So there are meetings you will say no to, not because they are not good for you, not because they are not good for everybody, but because they are not right for you. There are good activities which are not right for me. Everybody is going, oh, we are going for this meeting. Yes, it's good, but it's not right for me. Oh, everybody is doing this early in the morning. This is what everybody is doing. It is good for you. It is not right for me. So these are the things that people need to understand. And trust me, it pains me whenever I don't score a particular goal I've set for myself. The other thing I think people need to do is don't, overcrowd yourself with what you don't have capacity to meet. I mean, I was working with a guy who said he wanted to do ₦1 billion many years ago in Nigeria. Said his target is $1 billion. I asked him, what did you do last year? This guy did not do ₦1 million, but he wanted to do $1 billion the following year. So I asked him humorously, it was a stupid question actually. I said, can you tell me how many zeros make $1 billion? He didn't know. So how does he achieve something as mundane as, he doesn't even know how many zeros make $1 billion? So I think that people need to have accountability, have a team. That's what I usually do in my class. I get them to form teams, so have a team that you are every month, at the end of every month, what are you going to do this month? At the end of every month, you are reviewing together. You are checking yourself together, because an unexamined life is not worth living. That's what they say. So if you can examine yourself with a group of people and the group is brutal with you. So if you say, and you break what we do in goal scoring, you break it down to the nearest assignment you need to begin to do. So if your goal requires you to send 40 proposals every week, you have to send 40 proposals every week. The day you don't send 40 proposals every week, you are saying bye-bye to the goal. When you come for the meeting, the group who is going to review with you, they are not nice. They are going to shout on you, scream on you, and tell you you are losing your edge, so that you quickly go back. And so if you have refused to do 40 in a particular week, you need to now do 80. So this thing is a science and it is achievable, but our body will fight us. But what we need to do is to go contrary to the body and make this new one our reality. Once your new routine and ritual becomes your new reality, trust me, and you need about 3 to 4 months to install it. Once you scale the first quarter and 1 month, and you have installed the new routine and you are used to it, what begins to happen is result becomes a perpetual outcome for you.
Wow, fantastic response. I am just, my notes, because I'm trying to type as well on my on the computer as you're saying these things. I'm picking some key points, but definitely not able to catch everything. So for everyone listening, we're talking about reviewing or auditing, or whichever way we want to say it, 2022 and probably even the previous years, and what we should be doing differently for 2023. So it's all about scoring goals and not just setting these goals. I've just reached out to the team and I've got a link in the chat. There's a webinar that will be happening. I think it's on the 18th of December for, it's like the fuller session of what we're having here that will tell you about goal scoring and how we should actually have a different 2020. I've put the link in the chat. If you've got any questions, let me know, but feel free to register, get your friends on, the 11 players you want to join to you, those ones that are going in your direction, that you want to make sure that the people who are coming with you are also those who can push you, the people who you'll be accountable to and all that. Get everyone to join that session and you'll be glad you did. At least 2023 should actually be a different one from all the other years. So I have this last question from Ionity, and I'm going to quickly pick it. There's another question, but it doesn't relate to what we're doing today. So apologies, I wouldn't be able to take that question. Let me see. I think Ionity was talking about, she was talking about the role that self-discipline plays in all of this. And I think PF has kind of touched on it when he was talking about, how you have to get up as early as we can, be determined, and, looking at the goal, the end goal itself of your life, and how all of that now, what you need to do so that you can ensure that that goal that is set for your life itself, not just, the yearly one, is met. But I don't know if you have any other thing that you want to say. Someone is putting another message.
Yeah.
The question Ionity asked about the role discipline.
I've literally answered that. You see, discipline, when people talk about discipline doesn't just achieve itself. And many people become very indisciplined once you lose sight of the future you want to go. Once it's no longer real to you, becoming disciplined is that simple. All right. Once you're not clear about the image of the body you want, you eat anything. Right? You go anywhere, you do everything. But once that is perpetually before you, I mean, it's enough to, if I say to you, don't steal money because by the year 2035, the whole world will be yours, right? What will not make you to steal money is not because stealing tendency doesn't exist in you, is the fact that you know that by the year 2035, everything will be over because you have access to everything. That's how these things work, right? So when people say discipline, oftentimes we don't even understand what it means. We just say, oh yeah, be disciplined. You can be disciplined in the wrong direction and you're still going to be broke and you're not going to go in the direction you want to go. And that's not where you want to be.
So when your direction is clear, you definitely be disciplined. Where you're going is very clear, you would be disciplined about it.
As a matter of fact, a deviation from it is proof that you don't want to go to where you say you want to go.
Fantastic. Okay, this session has just been very insightful and very, very useful. I know that we always keep to time, so we're about 4 minutes before the end of today's session, and I don't think I've got any other question in the chat, and I don't know if people have got any comments. What would you like to say to PF, at this time for this session we've had? Let me see what people are saying in the chat box. So let's drop our messages in the chat box just to appreciate, PF for his time, for, always helping us. It's the end of the year, it's the last session we're having for 2022 as well. So we just want to appreciate all, every time we call or we want to have our meetings, PF is always like, oh, I want to be there. And it's just been fantastic supporting us within the community. For those who are not in the WhatsApp group, I'll drop the link to the WhatsApp group. Make sure you're part of us. We talk, we gist, we're, watching out for each other. We just encourage ourselves. So be a part of us, and we have so many things upcoming for 2023 and beyond. We're not just those who talk, we are doers, we are action takers. We take action. You can say everything we do is slightly different. So PF, on that note, any last words for us?
The last word I'm going to give to you is this: please don't listen to people who say to you, you don't know this is UK, things are tough here. Don't listen to those people. In the midst of recession is where recession is simply a redirection of money, a redistribution of money. Recession is when new billionaires are made. So please, people know me. If I step into a place and people begin to talk about things are going to be tough, I just pack my thing. Even if it's a church service, if it's a mosque service, I pack my things and I'm on my way home because I respond to energy around me. I love the energy of abundance, energy of possibilities. Someone called me yesterday and they asked one question. My facial, it's just unfortunate that I couldn't see my facial reaction, but there was somebody beside me who saw the way my body lit up because I was like, what kind of stupid question are you asking? I just couldn't say it to him. It has not crossed my mind. So don't think that other people's experience is going to be your experience. You are a different breed. If you begin to do what is right, if you begin to put the right framework in place, your framework, your action, your thoughts are prayers to heaven. And if heaven says amen, heaven will say amen to you once there's alignment between your words, thoughts, and action. So it's going to be an amazing year, and it's going to be year one of the next 10 years. So you don't have to kill yourself over nothing. Wherever you are is wherever you are. Wherever you are is where you should start from. Don't get into all kinds of pressure because your friends is our year of taking over. If you have not become formidable, you can't take over anything. So you better respect yourself so you don't die as a foot soldier. But I know that at the end of the day, you guys will attain clarity, and we're all going to have a fantastic, fantastic 2023. Thank you very much. God bless you.
Fantastic and spot on, very spot on time. We're just finishing 1 minute before the time. So it's our final session, and we've come to the end of this 2022 sessions for It Takes a Village. We'll be back next year by God's grace every second Friday. So we hope to see you. We hope that, you know, you're able to, someone's saying, what about the information? Yes, absolutely. See you all next year. What about which information? I'm sorry, I missed that. You said which information?
Yeah, I think it's the goal scoring information that you have already put on.
I have been putting the goal scoring information. So the link to register, we've got a webinar that will be taking place. It's on the 18th. Feel free to join. Yeah, that's it. So register. If you're not on the WhatsApp group, please join. I'll also try and put it on the WhatsApp group. Merry Christmas, indeed. The show is saying Merry Christmas to everyone and a Happy New Year in advance. Happy 2023. We hope to see you in 2023, and we do hope that 2023 definitely is going to, we know it's going to be different. So on that note, thank you so much, everyone. Thank you, Jacqueline. Thank you so much. I appreciate it. Yeah. We finished for tonight, but for those who just have 1 minute to spare, and for those who are in their festive, a touch of festive, anything festive, let's see your faces. And if you are not, bye. Anyway, you guys are not ready to have fun. Okay, so if you've come with something festive, anyway, if you have not also come with something festive, try and get a glass. Let's, you know, 2023 is coming. Get a glass of what's my own? A glass of water. Crystal clear water. Just get a glass that you can, you know, we can use to toast into 2023. I know PF said those that dance. We don't dance here. So we were toasting, knowing that we're going to take action to 2023, believing that, you know, things are going to be different. So for those who are ready, anybody with your glass of anything, water, a cup of tea, a cup of pepper soup, a bowl, not a cup.